So there was some very obvious hints throughout this episode, multiple, that let us know what was going on in Connie's village, and what was going on with the Titan that was in his house that apparently shouldn't have been able to get there because it can't move. And I remember when I was reading this part in the manga for the first time, that I kind of pieced together my own thoughts on what was going on, because there was a lot of obvious things being hinted at in the manga, and I do think the anime makes it even more obvious because of the way it was done. But if there is some off chance that you didn't understand what was happening in Connie's village, or the Titan in his house, or the no hole in the wall, all these little obvious hints throughout the episode, I don't recommend you to continue watching this video, because I don't want to spoil you if you didn't understand it. I want to talk about something that was easy to come to a conclusion to, even if you're an anime only. No spoilers, don't worry, but I'm just going to talk about the things that was just fucking obvious while watching the episode. So, it's very apparent that what's going on in Connie's village, you can come to the conclusion that Connie, his entire family and all that, they apparently didn't evacuate, because the horses are still there. Very obvious, by the way. It was even said multiple times, like, the horses are still there, there's no blood, which that means there was no struggle, which that's strange. So, even though the horses are still there, but there's no blood, no struggle, what the fuck is happening there? But then on top of that, some of these Titans, or, you know, the Titan inside of Connie's house, that is just leaning back and can't move because its limbs are just so fucked up, there's no way it could have walked there in the first place, unless another Titan grabbed it and just slung it all the way over there. There's just no way that that Titan should be there. And also the damage to the buildings as well. Everything we know when it comes to Titans throughout Attack on Titan is that they don't necessarily cause damage to buildings if there is no one there. They just don't go out of their way to do that. They don't even really attack wildlife, which is why it was so surprising when the Beast Titan grabbed the horse and slung it at the dude in the first episode towards the end. And that's what was just extremely shocking. And when you're looking at this, there's just so many signs that something is very off with Connie's village. It just doesn't make any sense. But then it goes even further when they're searching the wall for a hole, because the Titans had to get in somehow. Titans just do not pop up out of fucking nowhere. We know this from Attack on Titan Season 1. There has to be a hole in the wall. That's the only way all these Titans could have, you know, popped up in the first place. But from what you see is that there is no hole in the wall. And that was the very strange part about it. There was no hole. Even though they went all the way around, they didn't find anything at all. Now, it's kind of obvious that they might have missed it, but it's still very strange. You just don't miss a hole that size when a Titan can fit through it. It has to be a pretty big damn hole. Like, there's just no way you can easily miss something like that. And then Titans would definitely be pouring through that hole because of how big it is. So there would be a lot more Titans all the way around the wall, and, you know, you'd be getting overrun constantly. But that did not happen when they were searching around for a hole. So that's obviously very strange, and something's wrong there. Something's very off with that. Now, you could also come to a conclusion that maybe the Titans climbed over the wall, because you do see the Beast Titan in this episode. He climbs up on top of the wall, and that was very savage, by the way. The way he just climbs up on top of the wall, and he just sits there, and he looks back when kind of the episode ends. It just showcases that the wall can't completely protect them. If a Titan has some form of intelligence like the Beast Titan, there's just no way you can protect against everything, because if this thing can climb the wall, and other Titans were like this, you're not going to be able to stop an invasion. They'll just climb up the wall and just start eating you alive. That is a possibility as well. Maybe the Titans got in because they climbed over the wall. But it still doesn't necessarily explain what's happening in Connie's village, because there's just some very weird things going on. Horses are still there. There's no way you can run from Titans if you don't have your horses. They're going to catch up to you and eat you, but there's no blood around. But there's a bunch of destruction inside of the village, so that's off. There's something very off with that. And what you could assume is that because of one of the Titans in Connie's house was talking, you know, said, welcome home, like, you know, a very subtle, you know, sentence. There's two things you can think about that. You can either assume that Connie is going crazy, like he's going under so much stress that he is hearing shit, which that is a possibility. I mean, his entire family's probably dead, because the horse is still there and all that. Even though there's no blood, his family's dead. And he can come to that conclusion, which, because of that stress, he might, you know, be hearing shit. And that is a possibility. That is. Or another thing you could think is that maybe that Titan is someone that is related to Connie. But anyways, besides all of that though, let us talk about just how good this episode was in terms of just setting everything up. As a manga reader that already kind of knows what to expect, I have to admit that I love the presentation of the series. Even though some of the things they're doing is very obvious, but it was still obvious in the manga, I do like the way they're presenting some things and trying to be very subtle about certain very important details throughout the episode, and anime-onlys obviously won't pick up on this until what's done is done. And I really like what they've been doing throughout this episode, and there's some things that's been happening throughout this episode and even in last week's episode that's hinting at something that is going to be a very big plot point of this season, and I really like the way Wit Studios is handling that, especially with some of these important scenes. Now, there is a certain thing I do want to talk about as well, and that is Christa. So Christa is very important. She is now, you know, in trouble. She needs to be saved because she is very important. Something to do with her is connected with whatever's going on with the wall because of what the priest said, Pastor Nick. What he said was that, you know, she's kind of important, so they're having to rush over there and trying to save her, even though Titans right now are attacking her. So this is very bad. If she is not saved, they're going to lose their source of information, whatever's really happening. But on top of that, though, you have to question what is happening with Ymir. Ymir let us know in this episode that she is there hanging around Christa because she's doing it for herself. She's not doing it because of any other reason, anyone else told her or whatever. She's doing it for herself. So what is really going on? What is really going on with the relationship between these two characters? And why did it seem like Christa was so pained in her face when, you know, she was asking Ymir these questions? There's a lot of things that were popping up in this episode and setting up for the potential future. Now, I'm just going to say right now, anime-onlys, pay attention to that. It's important shit. So don't overlook it. Don't think it's not important. Look over, because it's character development and all of that, so make sure you pay attention to that. So yeah, with that being said, episode had great music as always. I mean, that's to be expected when you have, you know, the composer of this series. That's to be expected. Opening ending song, always having to listen to it because it's just that good. Art and animation looks fabulous. It looks way better than it did even in the past, in the first season. So continue being good, Attack on Titan. I'm once again still glad to have you back, and tell me your thoughts in the comments below how you felt about this episode. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.